get a bill through the legislature. It was very contentious. We couldn't find political alignment. So we kind of went around the legislature and passed it through the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing. And that has the efficacy of law, but it's not codified in statute. So it banned the harmful practice of conversion therapy, but there was some resentment, I think, that was built up with some lawmakers. They are the lawmaking body of our government. And, Representative Bramble was very concerned about it, and Representative Peterson were concerned about the process of it. And they had some issues with some ambiguity in the ban. And it became very clear early in the session that our conversion therapy ban was actually vulnerable to be overturned. And this was that moment where, I had all these ideas in my head about Representative Bramble and Brammer or Senator Bramble, Representative Brammer and Representative Peterson. But when I went in to chat with them and I let my defenses go down and actually listened to them, I realized that we weren't as ideologically apart as I originally assumed. And we started to engage with each other in really constructive dialogue and listen to each other. And I realized that neither Representative Peterson or Representative Brammer wanted to harm LGBTQ kids. They didn't want them to be subjected to unethical and harmful practices. They just want some clarifications in the law. And I really want to thank both leadership in the House and in the Senate and Governor Cox for encouraging us to get around the table and work together to find a solution. And we did. And so this new law it actually codifies the ban in statute, which is a more enduring protection. It does not allow a therapist to subject a gay or transgender person to conversion therapy to try to alter or force a change in their orientation or their gender identity, but it does allow for some clarifications to help therapists know what they can and cannot talk about. And that's all good. What happened as a result of that is that we passed it through the House unanimously. We passed it through the Senate unanimously. That has never happened. All the conversion therapy bans across the country have never had a unanimous vote in both the House and the Senate. And next week, Governor Cox signs it.
And you started off opposed to this bill.
That's right.
You've already gone through the process of how that played out, but you guys started out saying this is not the way to go. And you were very concerned about this when I talked to you on opening day.
Yeah, conversion therapy, we know it doesn't work. We know it increases people's shame and it increases the likelihood of suicide ideation for young people. And so we were very concerned that ban would be in jeopardy. But we got together, we worked through it, we found common ground. And I'm so grateful for all the lawmakers who encouraged that process. That is politics at its very best.
Another bill that went through the first 2 weeks of the session, also signed into law by the governor within the first 2 weeks of the session, I believe the second Saturday of the session, was one you opposed, Senate Bill 16. It essentially bans medical treatment for youth who are in the transition process. We heard a lot about, look, we're seeing these more progressive European countries kind of take a different approach to this. So that's one reason we should scale back. And we also heard a lot about this is a permanent decision that those who support the bill say maybe in your teenage years you shouldn't be making. Your thoughts on those points?
Well, this is where I feel like we as the legislature and as the stakeholders where we actually fell short. We weren't able to come together to find common ground and actually find that grand compromise. And I think as a result, we have a lot of parents now and families with transgender children who are frightened, who are scared, who don't know if they're going to be able to stay in the state of Utah because they fear having their access to their medical care taken from them. And we feel it's an overreach of government for the state to get involved in the very intimate decisions that parents and their children must make with their doctors. That's a very sacred relationship, and we don't believe that the state should be involved in that. We do understand that there is a great debate on these issues. We do understand that that other countries are making different choices, and we need to allow that process to go forward. We need to look at all the data and trust the science that we'll get better information as time goes by, because all of us, and I believe everybody on this around the table on this issue, cares about the well-being
Open
and the
Society
health
Foundation,
of transgender
Soros.
children, and want to make sure that they can thrive. And I want to make sure that they can thrive not just in this country, but here in Utah, which is their home.
We have about a minute left, but I would really like your insight on you were at the table in trying to work on this bill. What was a point that you could have got on board with? What would have been the grand compromise,
Well,
as you say?
there has to be a path forward. Now, these other European countries that are putting up higher guardrails, none of them have actually banned the practice of affirming care. They have just increased the rigor of the protocols and put some of their youth through more robust clinical trials. Had we done that through the University of Utah, I think the state would have, the law would have been stronger at resisting a legal challenge. But right now, as it is, as a ban, it will be litigated against, and probably, I'm going to predict, won't hold up to equal protection claims.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds left.
slashed at the end.
The law passed. It's signed into law now. So if you know someone in your life that might be struggling, what's the best approach?
Well, you have to know that this is a the arc of justice is long, but I'm sorry. What is that? The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. This is a moment on the journey, but this is not the end of the story. And we're going to continue to work that every gay and transgender American, it is our birthright to enjoy equal protection under the law, and that's what we're working to achieve.
Troy Williams with Quality Utah. Thanks for your time. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Glenn.
Still to come, more on the legislative session. House leaders from both sides weighing in on how the legislature impacted our lives. That's in our panel discussion. But first, another drug maker vowing to drastically slash